you're starting to see a lot of frustration from conservatives, because the thing that is becoming clear here is that, you have a group of at least probably close to 20, 25 minimum conservative lawmakers who are spearheading this. There are 5 who have, I think, explicitly said they're not going to vote for McCarthy. There, by all reporting, seems to be at least a dozen who are sort of like in the next wave. You might imagine them as like archers. And the first 5, sorry, I watched Lord of the Rings over the weekend.
Legolas.
and the first wave being sort of like, with the swords and shields. And there's more. You also have like Club for Growth that is saying that we will primary you if you vote for McCarthy for Speaker. So there's a lot of strength in the anti-McCarthy, I guess, cohort within the Republican caucus. They already have gotten a bunch of concessions from him, very little of which have anything to do with policy. In fact, I would say none have anything to do with policy. But let's play this clip first from ABC's John Carl. This happened Sunday, and just get a sense of like how it's being reported at the time.
And Rick, what happens? What happens if he loses? They get together. This is in 2 days. And the vote for Speaker of the House happens before the new members are officially sworn in. So what happens if there is no Speaker of the House?
Chaos. There's no modern precedent for this. It's been a century since we've seen more than one ballot. And look, yeah, that first ballot
1855.
goes forward. The first ballot goes forward, and if he doesn't get 218, then what will probably happen is you'll see a motion to adjourn or to start to see some conversations around the sides, because there's nothing else they can do. As you said, John, no committees, no structure, no bills can get voted on, nothing else, even the swearing in gets delayed. Now, as you go through the balloting, there's other things that can happen. You can start to cut deals. You can also change eventually the threshold to get someone with the plurality instead of the outright majority. But it's going to be long and messy.
So they can have a vote to change the threshold?
Yeah, they can vote. Look, Republicans don't want to give the speakership to Hakeem Jeffries. That's not going to happen. And I think everyone recognizes that. And if there is no other viable alternative, then they're going to get to a place where they're going to have to swallow it. But the longer it goes, the more McCarthy gives, the weaker he is as Speaker, and potentially the less time he'd be able to serve as Speaker, because he may give away some things that would make it easier to depose him down the line. That's the clearest path for him to get it, is for him to allow members to take him down later.
And
now, what's interesting about this dynamic here is you don't hear anything about any type of policy being pushed, because there is no. This is not a policy fight. This is a fight within an industry as to which brand is going to be in charge. And so all it's going to do at the end of the day is leave McCarthy weaker and give an opportunity for specific congresspeople to be able to preen more when it comes to like the Hunter Biden dick pic committee, or the we don't like immigrants, impeach Mayorkas committee, or the investigate the investigators committee, because John Dunham didn't do the job that they want him to do.
They're also pretending like they really want to look into Pelosi's taxes, which is like, how about look into all your guys' taxes?
Yeah, I'm in favor of the whole thing. But that's what's fascinating about this. Now, imagine, well, let's play this. Here's Newt Gingrich coming in, weighing in on this. This is Newt Gingrich from yesterday on Fox News.
They gained seats in 22. He was the singularly most active, best fundraiser, biggest campaigner. I thought at least the House was going to be a sign of stability. And these 5 guys decided to go out as kamikazes and see if they can't sink the whole Republican Party. And that's what they're doing. This is not about Kevin McCarthy. This is about the right of any 5 members to basically throw away the entire rest of the conference and tell the rest of the conference it doesn't matter.
Why would they do that?
Between them and the conference.
Newt, that makes absolutely no. Why would they do it?
I think it's a psychological problem. These guys can't count straight. They can't play tic-tac-toe. They can't accept victory. I mean, this is a moment where the Freedom Caucus could claim victory and conservatives could claim victory. You're going to have, given what McConnell's been doing in the Senate, McCarthy is the only hope for conservatism in Washington right now. And to undermine him, I think, is to undermine conservatism, undermine the Republican Party, and frankly, undermine the country.
Well, listen, just in the
this is interesting and it's instructive because I want you to just contemplate what would have happened to the 5 members of the squad back in 2020. You're watching like Fox and Gingrich, hammer these 5 Republicans. And incidentally, there's about 15 behind them that have been pushing this as well. To be clear, these 5 are not alone. They know they're not alone. And again, they have institutional support from like Club for Growth. Those are the ones who got like folks like Toomey elected in Pennsylvania. Here's Dan Crenshaw, another Republican. You'll remember he did those fancy ads where he was a superhero because he doesn't have mental problems. But here, I mean, just get a sense of like what would have happened if there were 5 members of the squad pushing for, and to be clear, they've gotten some reforms in the system that are going to elevate certain people. Not a bad thing to fight for in some respects. Here's Dan Crenshaw talking about these 5 Republicans.
This handful of members is very clearly looking for notoriety over principle. That's what it is. And anyone who suggests differently is in some kind of make-believe fantasy reality. It's not true. They lost those debates. That should have been the end of it because that's how a team works, right? You hash this stuff out, you figure it out, and then you move on. But if you're a narcissist and you believe that your opinion is so much more important than everyone else's, then you'll keep going. And you'll threaten to tear down the team for the benefit of the Democrats just because of your own sense of self-importance. That's exactly what's happening here. We will not vote for anyone else but McCarthy. These people think they're stubborn, we're more stubborn. They think they're not going to get the committees they want. Well, obviously they won't, but it's going to be so much worse than that. They are enemies now. They have made it clear that they prefer a Democrat agenda than a Republican one.
I mean, so you're getting a sense of the intense anger that's going on there against these Republicans. And I just, for a moment, contemplate that what they wanted, and there is no analog really to the idea of the force the vote that people have been harping about for honestly for 2 years now, relentlessly. Some people have built their entire podcast
Not
careers.
that many people.
And that was a strategy of having the members of the squad leverage their vote against Nancy Pelosi for a vote that everyone knew would fail on Medicare for all. And it would fail on the House floor about 300 to 100, roughly speaking. It could be closer to like 310 to 125 or 35, but it's somewhere in that neighborhood. And the idea that
just to say, like the ones that did vote for it, you couldn't necessarily trust that they'd vote for it in a situation where it actually wasn't played.
All you get is them going on record for something they know is not going to happen. And then presumably, I'm not sure what happened after that. The public would rise up and say, how could you vote against this? But look at the way that this is being covered. Even on the right, and Republicans never get this type of negative coverage. You never hear Republicans in disarray. It is just reflexive of our media to do that with Democrats. Because largely Democrats are more in disarray. They are a a more heterogeneous party, just definitionally. They're made up of different socioeconomic classes, of different races, of different of education backgrounds. The Republican Party is 90% white. And in the upper half of the income distribution, and largely aligned. I don't know what the analogy would be between, sort of like voting for Medicare for all, which at the very least you can say, broadly speaking, at least in concept, the vast majority of Americans are in favor of. How intensely are they in favor of it? It's another question. But at least when they're asked in polling, for the most part, the idea of it, they're in favor of. If they were more in favor of it, we may have seen Bernie Sanders been president, or at least win the Democratic nomination. Nancy Pelosi, far more beloved amongst Democrats than Kevin McCarthy. And
then McCarthy is among Republicans.
Then McCarthy is among the Republicans, without a doubt. And those five who were holdouts for that vote would have been eviscerated. We would never hear of those people. They would probably be, I don't even know if they'd still be in office. And to what end? Now, in terms of McCarthy, what he's going to give up, and this is pretty good stuff, but again, you have to remember that at least 20%, at least 10% of the caucus, of the Republican caucus, is, threatening McCarthy not to vote for him. I think, the 15 or so, or 20 in the Freedom Caucus, and we don't know the exact numbers, would be satisfied with what's there, but the top five, another five, a separate group, are more aggressive. McCarthy has agreed to allow a snap vote at any time to oust him as speaker, which of course makes him far less effective. Again, they have no agenda anyways, so it really doesn't matter. It's not like this is 2020 and you've got a $1.3 trillion bill you want to pass to provide $300, $1,500, $1,400 checks to each American, and $300 per kid to each family, and free health care under the guise of COBRA. I mean, there was an agenda that needed to happen in 2020. There is no agenda. The Republicans have no agenda other than hearings to help Donald Trump. There's a package of rules that McCarthy unveiled on Sunday governing how the House operates, including these demands issued by the members of the Freedom Caucus, such as the adoption of the so-called Holman Rule, which allows lawmakers to use spending bills to defund specific programs and fire federal officials or reduce their pay. I don't know how this is going to work with a Democratic Senate. They probably will get nowhere, but they're introducing these concepts, which presumably if Republicans take full control of the government, they will do that. There's another proposal that's going to end proxy voting and remote committee hearings because they don't believe in infectious diseases. They're going to create a new select subcommittee under the Judiciary Committee focused on the weaponization of the federal government. Not really clear on what that means. Do you guys know what that means?
Indigenous folks will be interested in that.
I was going to say, the government has weapons. You mean when you have federal police come and
leave conservatives
break
alone.
up?
Let conservatives harass teachers and gay kids.
Yes, exactly. They would also hamstring the Office of Congressional Ethics. apparently there's like
Authoritarianism.
half a dozen Republican lawmakers who are stuck in the ethics process right now that they want to sort of release them. They would impose term limits for board members in the ethics board, which would result in the removal of all but one Democrat as the panel considers whether to begin an inquiry into certain Republican congressmen and their conduct related to January 6th attack on the Capitol. That's what that's about. Another proposal would mandate that the office hire investigators within 30 days of a new Congress, a requirement some ethics fear could leave the office understaffed for lengthy periods if hires are not made within that time. McCarthy also called for a church-style investigation. I don't know if he gets the pun there. Into past abuses of power by the FBI and the CIA agency. I mean, that wouldn't be a bad thing, frankly. No. I have a feeling it'd be narrowly tailored.
Yeah, I don't really. I think it'd be to look at again which FBI people are looking at, threats against teachers.
Raising the temperature on the threat to impeach Alejandro Mayorkas. He promised Marjorie Taylor Greene that she will get a spot on the coveted oversight committee that's going to allow for the penis inquiry into Hunter Biden's penis. McCarthy is also going to perhaps investigate the House Select Committee looking into the January 6th attack, holding public hearings scrutinizing the security breakdowns that occurred. And there you go. So that's what they have right there at the time being. And we will keep you updated on the vote.